The rain came down in sheets, cold and merciless, soaking through Lena's dress as she sat alone outside the venue. Inside, her sister's engagement party roared with laughter and music. Out here, she was invisible, a woman in a wheelchair, abandoned by the man who swore he'd stay, pitied by strangers, forgotten by family. She thought the night had already taken everything. Then a black car pulled up. A man in a dark suit stepped out, his eyes sharp and dangerous. He looked at her not with pity, but with recognition. "You're coming with me," he said. And just like that, her broken world shattered into something far more dangerous. If you want to know where this story goes, follow until the end. Hit like and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. Now, the accident happened on a Tuesday. Lena Hart remembered that detail with cruel clarity because Tuesdays used to be her favorite day. It was the day she taught her advanced ballet class, the day she'd watch young dancers find their balance and strength, the day she felt most like herself. But on this particular Tuesday, a delivery truck ran a red light at the intersection of Maple and Fifth, and everything Lena knew about her body, her future, and her life ended in the scream of metal and the shattering of glass. The doctors said she was lucky to be alive. Lucky. The word tasted like ash in her mouth as she lay in the hospital bed, staring at legs that wouldn't move, wouldn't respond, wouldn't do a damn thing she told them to. Temporary paralysis, they called it. Spinal shock. Give it time, they said. Weeks turned into months. The optimism in their voices faded with each appointment. Her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend now, lasted exactly 6 weeks after she came home from the hospital. "This isn't what I signed up for, Lena," Derek had said, standing in the doorway of her apartment like he was afraid to get too close. "I need someone who can. We used to go hiking, dancing, traveling. Now you can't even get out," she'd told him, her voice flat and cold. She didn't cry until after he left. She didn't cry again after that either. What was the point? Her family tried, at first. Her mother brought casseroles and worried looks. Her father offered to pay for another specialist. Her younger sister, Emma, sent cheerful texts that felt like tiny knives, updates about her perfect life, her perfect fiancé, her perfect engagement party that was coming up in 3 months. Then 2 months. Then 2 weeks. "You'll come, won't you?" Emma had asked during one of her rare visits, perched on the edge of Lena's couch like a bright, nervous bird. "It would mean so much to have you there. You're my sister." Lena had wanted to say no. She'd wanted to tell Emma that the thought of sitting in a room full of happy couples, of watching everyone dance and celebrate while she sat trapped in her chair, sounded like a special kind of torture. But the hope in Emma's eyes, the desperate need for everything to be normal, had broken through Lena's defenses. "I'll be there," she'd said. She regretted it the moment she arrived. The venue was a restored mansion on the edge of the city, all soaring ceilings and crystal chandeliers. The kind of place that screamed old money and new love. The kind of place with 3 steps leading up to the entrance and no ramp in sight. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," Emma had gasped when Lena arrived, her face flushing red. "I didn't even think—" Marcus, we need to get the portable ramp from the storage room." It took 20 minutes and 4 different people to get Lena inside. By the time she was through the door, half the guests were watching, their expressions a mix of pity and awkward discomfort. Emma kept apologizing. Lena kept smiling and saying it was fine, even though nothing about this was fine. The party was exactly as terrible as she'd imagined. Everyone was kind. That was the worst part. They were so relentlessly, suffocatingly kind. They spoke to her slowly, like the accident had damaged her brain instead of her spine. They asked how she was doing with that careful, pitying tone that made her want to scream. They told her she looked beautiful, which was code for, "You look good considering you're in a wheelchair." Derek was there. Of course he was there. He was Marcus's college roommate, which meant Lena had known this would happen, had prepared herself for it. But preparation didn't stop the sharp twist in her chest when she saw him across the room with his arm around a tall blonde in a red dress. The blonde laughed at something he said, tossing her hair back. Derek looked happier than Lena had seen him in months. "Lena, there you are!" Her mother appeared at her elbow, martini in hand and anxiety in her eyes. "Are you having a good time, sweetheart? Do you need anything? More champagne? Something to eat?" I'm fine, Mom. You should try to mingle more. I saw Patricia Coleman asking about you earlier. You remember Patricia, don't you? Her son just started medical school. Mom, please. Her mother's mouth tightened. I'm just trying to help. I know, I'm sorry, I just need a minute. But there was no escape at a party like this. The mansion was beautiful and sprawling, but every room was packed with guests. Every corner held someone who wanted to stop and chat, to ask how she was healing, to tell her about their cousin's friend who'd been in a wheelchair and was walking again now. Miracles happen, they said. Don't give up hope. She found refuge near the bar, tucked into a corner where the crowd was thinner. She ordered a whiskey, neat because she needed something strong, and tried to pretend she was anywhere else. Lena Hart. The voice came from behind her, low and familiar and unwelcome. She didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Derek. He moved into view, drink in hand, expression carefully neutral. I thought that was you. How are you doing? I'm at my sister's engagement party drinking whiskey in a corner. How do you think I'm doing? A muscle in his jaw twitched. Look, I know this is awkward. It's really not. We broke up. You moved on. That's how these things work. I didn't want it to end the way it did. Then you shouldn't have left. The words came out sharper than she intended, but she didn't take them back. Derek's face flushed. That's not fair. You know how hard it was for me, too. Watching you suffer, not being able to help. You could have stayed. And done what, Lena? Watched you sit in that chair for the rest of your life? Pretended everything was okay when it clearly wasn't? He caught himself, lowered his voice. I cared about you. I still do. But I couldn't be what you needed. What I needed was someone who didn't run the first time things got difficult. That's not... He stopped, shook his head. You know what? Never mind. I didn't come over here to fight. I just wanted to check on you. I'm fine. You can go back to your girlfriend now. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something else, then thought better of it. Take care of yourself, Lena. She watched him walk away, back to the blonde in the red dress, back to his new life that didn't include broken dancers in wheelchairs. She finished her whiskey in one burning gulp. The night deteriorated from there. Emma, drunk on champagne and happiness, insisted that everyone gather for a toast. Lena found herself wheeled to the center of the room, surrounded by a sea of standing guests, the only one sitting down. Emma's speech was sweet and slurred, full of gratitude and love and mentions of how perfect everything was. Marcus kissed her. Everyone applauded. Lena wanted to disappear. She's so brave, someone whispered behind her. I heard the accident was devastating. She'll never dance again. Such a shame. She was so talented. At least she made it here. That must have taken so much courage. Lena's hands tightened on the wheels of her chair. She didn't want to be brave. She didn't want to be inspiring. She didn't want to be a cautionary tale or a conversation piece. She just wanted to leave. She made it another hour, maybe less. Time had gone strange and syrupy, stretching out in painful increments. Finally, when she couldn't take another pitying glance or well-meaning comment, she wheeled herself toward the exit. Lena? Where are you going? Emma caught her near the door, her face flushed and happy. I'm tired. I'm going to head out. Already? But we haven't even cut the cake yet. I know. I'm sorry. I need to go. Emma's expression crumpled. Is this about Derek? I saw you two talking. I told Marcus we shouldn't have invited him, but it's not about Derek. I'm just tired. Please don't go. You're my sister. I want you here. Lena looked at Emma, at her perfect makeup and perfect dress and perfect happiness, and felt something crack inside her chest. You want me here because it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you're being supportive and inclusive. But the truth is, Emma, I don't belong here. Look at me. Look at all of them. She gestured at the crowd behind her. I'm the tragedy in the corner, the brave cripple who showed up to prove she's not broken. Well, guess what? I am broken, and I'm tired of pretending otherwise. Lena, I love you. I'm happy for you, but I can't do this. She pushed through the doors before Emma could respond, before the tears burning in her eyes could spill over. The cool night air hit her face like a slap. It had started raining while she was inside, a cold, steady drizzle that soaked through her dress within seconds. The valet stand was empty. Of course it was. She'd told her mother she'd get a ride home with someone else, and now everyone was inside. And she was stuck out here in the rain with no way to get home and no dignity left to salvage. She wheeled herself away from the entrance, away from the light and music spilling out of the mansion, until she found a spot under a tree that offered minimal shelter. The rain came down harder. Her phone was dead. Her dress was ruined. She was cold and wet and completely, utterly alone. This was rock bottom, she thought. There was nowhere left to fall. Then headlights cut through the rain. A black car, sleek, expensive, dangerous, pulled up in front of the mansion. The engine purred like a predator. Lena watched, numb and detached, as the driver's door opened and a man stepped out. He was tall, dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than her rent. Dark hair, sharp features, the kind of face that looked like it had been carved from stone. He moved with the controlled grace of someone who was always aware of his surroundings, always calculating. His eyes swept the area and then stopped on her. Lena expected him to look away. Everyone always looked away. He didn't. Instead, he walked toward her through the rain, his footsteps deliberate and unhurried. He stopped a few feet away, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "You're wet," he said. His voice was low, rough-edged. "It's raining. You're sitting in a wheelchair in the rain outside a party. Why? That's really not your business." His mouth curved slightly. Not quite a smile, but something close. "You're right. It's not." He paused, tilted his head. "But you look like someone who's had a bad night." "What gave it away?" "The way you're sitting out here like you want the rain to wash you away." Lena blinked, startled by the accuracy of the observation. "Who are you?" "Someone who knows what it looks like when a person doesn't want to be found." He glanced toward the mansion, where light and music continued to spill out into the darkness. "Are you here for the engagement party?" "Unfortunately." "Not a fan of celebrations?" "Not a fan of being the tragic centerpiece." Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. "I know the feeling." Before Lena could respond, the front doors of the mansion burst open. A group of men in suits emerged, their voices sharp and agitated. The man in front of her went very still. "Stay quiet," he said softly. "What?" "Stay. Quiet." The men were scanning the area, their movements quick and purposeful. One of them pointed toward the tree line. Another spoke into a phone. There was something wrong about them, something that made Lena's instincts scream danger. The man crouched down in front of her wheelchair, his eyes locked on hers. "I need you to trust me for the next 60 seconds. Can you do that?" "I don't even know you." "I know, but those men are looking for me. And if they find me, they'll find you. And if they find you with me, you become a problem they need to solve." His expression was calm, almost gentle. "I don't let innocent people become problems. So I'm going to get you out of here. Nod if you understand." Lena should have been terrified. She should have screamed for help. But something in his voice, in the steady certainty of his gaze, made her believe him. She nodded. "Good girl." He straightened, moved behind her chair, and started pushing her deeper into the shadows. The men were spreading out now, calling to each other. One of them was heading in their direction. The stranger's hand came down on her shoulder, a light touch, but firm enough to keep her still. They waited, hidden in the darkness, as the man passed within 10 feet of them. Lena held her breath, her heart hammered against her ribs. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the men regrouped near the front entrance and headed inside. The stranger released her shoulder. "They'll be back. We need to move." "Move where?" "My car." "I'm not getting in a car with a stranger who's being hunted by—" "What, exactly?" "Who were those people?" "People you don't want to meet." He came around to face her again, and for the first time she saw something raw in his expression. Urgency. "I don't have time to explain, but if you stay here, there's a chance they'll come back and ask you questions. Questions about me, and when they don't like your answers, they'll hurt you. Is that clear enough?" Lena's mouth went dry. Why would they think I know anything about you? Because they saw my car pull up. Because you're the only person out here. Because they're paranoid and violent, and they don't need much of a reason. He held out his hand. Please, let me get you somewhere safe. Every rational part of Lena's brain was screaming at her to refuse, to wheel herself back inside, find Emma, call the police. But the rational parts of her brain had been drowned out by months of pain and isolation and desperation. And this man, this dangerous stranger, was looking at her like she mattered, like she was worth protecting. Maybe that was enough. Okay, she whispered. Relief flashed across his face. He moved behind her chair again and pushed her toward the black car. The rain was coming down harder now, turning the ground to mud. He opened the passenger door, then turned to her. I'm going to lift you.
Is that all right? She nodded, too stunned to speak. He bent down, slid one arm under her knees and the other behind her back,
and lifted her like she weighed nothing. For a moment, she was pressed against his chest, close enough to feel the steady beat of his heart, close enough to smell rain and expensive cologne. Then he was settling her into the passenger seat, adjusting her legs carefully, buckling her in. He folded the wheelchair with quick, efficient movements and put it in the trunk. Then he was in the driver's seat, starting the engine, pulling away from the mansion with controlled speed. Lena watched the lights fade in the rearview mirror. What just happened? I saved your life. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. He glanced at her, his expression unreadable. What's your name? Lena. Lena Hart. Lena. He said it carefully, like he was testing the weight of it. I'm Damien Cross. The name meant nothing to her. She waited for him to elaborate. He didn't. They drove in silence for several minutes, the rain drumming against the windshield. Lena's mind was racing, trying to piece together what had just happened. Men in suits, a chase, danger. This was insane. She should demand that he take her home immediately, but she didn't. Where are we going? She asked instead. Somewhere safe. That's vague. It's intentional. Are you always this cryptic? Are you always this trusting of dangerous strangers? I'm not trusting you. I'm just too tired to fight. Damien's mouth quirked. Fair enough. They turned onto a highway, heading away from the city. The lights grew sparser. The rain continued to fall. Lena leaned her head against the window, watching the darkness blur past. Why were those men looking for you? She asked quietly. Because I'm not a good person, Lena. That's not an answer either. It's the most honest one I can give you. She turned to look at him. His profile was sharp in the dim light from the dashboard, all hard lines and shadows. Are you going to hurt me? No. How do I know that? You don't. He glanced at her. But you got in the car anyway. He was right. She had, and she still didn't know why. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the desperation. Maybe it was the way he'd looked at her, not with pity, but with something else. Something that made her feel seen for the first time in months. They drove for another 20 minutes before turning onto a private road that wound through dense trees. At the end of the road was a gate, tall, imposing, flanked by stone pillars. Damien pressed a button on his visor and the gate swung open. The house beyond was massive. Not a house, really. An estate, all sharp angles and floor-to-ceiling windows, lit from within like a jewel in the darkness. You live here? Lena asked. Yes. Alone? Mostly. He pulled into a garage that housed at least 6 other cars, all of them sleek and expensive. The door closed behind them with a quiet hum. Damien got out, retrieved her wheelchair from the trunk, and came around to help her. This time, when he lifted her, she didn't tense. She let herself lean into his strength, let him carry her weight. He set her in the chair with the same careful precision as before, then pushed her through a door that led into the house. The interior was stunning, minimalist and modern, all clean lines and muted colors, but it felt cold, empty, like no one actually lived here. Damien pushed her into a living room dominated by floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the dark forest beyond. He moved to a bar cart and poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. Whiskey, he said, handing her one. You looked like you needed it earlier. She took it, sipped, felt the burn slide down her throat. You were watching me. I was. Why? Because you looked like the only real person in that entire party. Lena didn't know what to say to that. She drank more whiskey and studied him as he stood by the windows, staring out at nothing. Are you going to tell me what's going on? She asked finally. Damien turned to face her. Those men work for people I've crossed, dangerous people. If they'd found me at that party, there would have been violence, bloodshed. Innocent people would have been hurt. He paused. Including you. Why would I be hurt? I have nothing to do with this. You do now. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. What does that mean? Lena asked, her voice sharper now. It means they saw you. They saw me talking to you, and in my world, that's enough to make you a target. A target for what? For leverage, for information, for whatever they think might get to me. Lena's hands tightened on her glass. So you brought me here to protect me? Yes. Or to protect yourself. Damien's eyes flickered with something dark. Maybe both. She should have been angry, terrified. She was, a little, but underneath the fear was something else, a strange, reckless relief, because for the first time since the accident, someone needed her for something, even if that something was dangerous and probably insane. How long do I have to stay here, Jane? She asked. Until it's safe. And when will that be? I don't know. So I'm a prisoner. You're a guest who can't leave. Damien crossed the room and crouched in front of her chair, bringing himself to eye level. Up close, she could see the details she'd missed before. The faint scar above his left eyebrow, the silver flecks in his dark eyes, the weariness etched into the corners of his mouth. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I didn't plan for this. I didn't plan for you. But now that you're here, I'm going to keep you safe, whether you believe that or not. I don't know what to believe. Then believe this. No one is going to hurt you while you're under my protection. I promise you that. His voice was steady, absolute, and despite everything, the strangeness of the situation, the danger, the impossibility of it all, Lena believed him. Okay, she whispered. Damien stood, moved to the windows again. There are guest rooms upstairs. I'll have someone prepare one for you. Someone? I have staff. They're discreet. Of course you do. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Get some rest, Lena. Tomorrow we'll figure out what comes next. But as Lena sat in that cold, beautiful room, whiskey in hand and rain streaking down the windows, she couldn't shake the feeling that what came next had already begun the moment Damien Cross looked at her in the rain and saw something worth saving. The woman who appeared in the doorway an hour later looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Sleek black dress, hair pulled back in a perfect bun, expression carefully neutral. She introduced herself as Maya and explained that she managed the household staff. Mr. Cross asked me to show you to your room, Maya said, her tone polite but distant. I've prepared the East Wing guest suite. If you need anything, there's a phone by the bed. Lena followed as Maya pushed her wheelchair through hallways that felt more like a museum than a home. Everything was pristine, expensive, untouched. No family photos on the walls, no clutter, no warmth. The guest suite was larger than Lena's entire apartment. King-size bed, sitting area, bathroom with a walk-in shower that had been retrofitted with accessibility bars and a shower chair. Someone had thought ahead. Mr. Cross had these installed after you arrived, Maya said, noticing Lena's gaze. He wanted you to be comfortable. How thoughtful, Lena said, unable to keep the edge from her voice. Maya's expression didn't change. I've laid out some clothes for you. They should fit. Breakfast is at 8, but I can bring something to your room if you prefer. I'll come down. Very well. Good night, Miss Hart. After Maya left, Lena sat in the middle of that enormous room and felt the full weight of her situation settle over her. She was in a stranger's house, hidden from people who apparently wanted to hurt her, with no way to leave and no idea how long she'd be here. This was insane. All of it. She should call someone. Her mother. Emma. The police. But when she reached for her phone, she found it still dead in her purse. And when she looked around the room for a charger, she realized she didn't actually want to make those calls. What would she say? That she'd left Emma's party with a dangerous man who'd saved her from other dangerous men? That she was hiding in a mansion in the woods like some kind of fairy tale gone wrong? They'd think she'd lost her mind. Maybe she had. Lena transferred herself to the bed, a practiced movement that still required effort and left her breathless. She lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain against the windows, and tried not to think about how the last time someone had carried her, it had been paramedics loading her into an ambulance. Damien had carried her differently, like she was fragile but not broken, like she mattered. She hated that she'd noticed. Sleep came eventually, fitful and full of dreams about car crashes and men in dark suits and eyes that saw too much. Morning arrived with pale sunlight filtering through gauze curtains. Lena woke disoriented, momentarily forgetting where she was. Then memory crashed back and she groaned. The clothes Maya had left were surprisingly practical. Soft pants with an elastic waist, a simple sweater, undergarments still in packaging. Everything fit. Lena dressed slowly, transferred to her chair, and made her way downstairs. She found the dining room by following the smell of coffee. It was another cavernous space, dominated by a table that could seat 20. Damien sat at one end, reading something on a tablet, a cup of black coffee at his elbow. He looked up when she entered. "Good morning." "Is it?" Lena wheeled herself to the table. "I'm still processing the fact that last night actually happened." "It happened." He set down the tablet. "How did you sleep?" "Terribly. You?" "I don't sleep much." A woman Lena hadn't met before appeared with a coffee pot and filled her cup without asking. She was older than Maya, gray-haired and efficient. She set down a plate of eggs and toast, then disappeared back into what Lena assumed was the kitchen. "That's Anne," Damien said. "She's been with me for years. Doesn't talk much, but she's a hell of a cook." Lena picked up her fork, realized she was starving, and ate. Damien watched her with that same unsettling intensity from the night before. "Are you going to stare at me the entire meal?" she asked finally. "Probably." "That's not creepy at all." "I'm trying to figure you out." "There's nothing to figure out. I'm a dancer who can't dance anymore. That's the whole story." "That's the surface story." Damien leaned back in his chair. "But that's not what I saw last night." "What did you see?" "Someone who's been abandoned by everyone who was supposed to stay." Lena's fork clattered against her plate. "You don't know anything about me. I know what it looks like when someone's given up on themselves. I know what it sounds like when someone tells themselves they don't matter anymore." His voice was quiet, certain, "And I know you're wrong." "Stop." "Why?" "Because it's uncomfortable? Because it's true? Because you're a stranger who kidnapped me and you don't get to psychoanalyze me over breakfast." Damien's mouth curved slightly. "Fair point." He picked up his coffee. "For the record, I didn't kidnap you. You came willingly. Under duress. Under protection. Same thing from where I'm sitting." "Not even close." They ate in tense silence for several minutes. Lena's mind was racing, trying to figure out her next move. She needed information. She needed to understand what she'd stumbled into. "Who were those men?" she asked. "The ones from last night." Damien set down his cup. "Associates of the Volkov family. Russian organized crime." Lena nearly choked on her coffee. "You're joking." "I don't joke about things that can get you killed." "And what exactly is your relationship with the Volkov family?" "Complicated." "Try me." Damien studied her for a long moment, like he was deciding how much to tell her. "I run certain operations in this city, ones that sometimes conflict with theirs. We've had an uneasy truce for the past 2 years, but someone's been pushing boundaries, testing weaknesses." "What kind of operations?" "The kind you don't want details about. You're a criminal." "I'm a businessman who operates outside traditional legal frameworks." "That's a fancy way of saying criminal." "If it makes you feel better to think of it that way, go ahead." Lena pushed her plate away. "I need to go home." "Not yet." "This isn't a request, Damien. I have a life. People who'll worry about me." "Do you?" The question was gentle but cut deep. "Because from what I saw last night, you left that party and no one came looking for you. You sat in the rain for 20 minutes and no one noticed you were gone. The truth of it stung worse than she wanted to admit. That doesn't give you the right to keep me here. I'm not keeping you. I'm protecting you. There's a difference. Then let me leave. And go where? Back to your apartment? Back to your life? Damien leaned forward. They know who you are now, Lena. They saw us together. If I let you go, they'll find you. They'll use you to get to me, and when they're done, they won't leave you alive. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to keep you alive. His voice dropped, went harder. I've seen what these people do. I've cleaned up the aftermath. You don't want to be a cautionary tale. Lena's hands were shaking. She gripped the arms of her wheelchair to steady them. How long? Until I can neutralize the threat. How long, Damien? I don't know. Days, maybe weeks. Weeks? You expect me to stay here for weeks? I expect you to stay here until it's safe, however long that takes. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to wheel herself out the front door and take her chances. But underneath the anger was fear, cold and sharp and real. Because she believed him. She believed that there were people out there who would hurt her just to hurt him. Why did you even approach me last night? She asked, her voice tight. Why not just leave me there? Damien was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, rougher. Because you looked like I felt, alone in a room full of people, invisible. And I thought... He stopped, shook his head. It doesn't matter what I thought. Tell me. I thought maybe we weren't as different as we looked. The admission hung between them, raw and unexpected. Lena didn't know what to do with it. Anne appeared to clear the plates, breaking the moment. Damien stood, picked up his tablet. I have work to do. Maya will be here if you need anything. The grounds are secure, so you're free to move around the house. How generous. Lena, just go. He hesitated, like he wanted to say something else. Then he turned and left. Lena sat alone in that enormous dining room, fighting the urge to cry. She'd survived the accident. She'd survived Derek leaving. She'd survived months of physical therapy and pitying looks and slow, painful progress toward a future that felt more like a prison than a life. But this? Being trapped in a stranger's house, hunted by people she'd never met, connected to a man who looked at her like he could see straight through her carefully constructed walls? This might actually break her. The day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Lena explored the house, or as much of it as her wheelchair could access. There was a library with floor-to-ceiling shelves, most of them empty, a gym that looked barely used, a media room with a screen the size of a small car. Everything was beautiful and expensive and hollow. She found Maya in what appeared to be a home office, working on a laptop. Is there somewhere I can charge my phone? Lena asked. Maya looked up, her expression carefully blank. Mr. Cross asked me to hold on to it for now. Excuse me? For your safety. Phones can be tracked. He took my phone? He's keeping it secure. Lena's jaw clenched. I want it back. You'll need to discuss that with Mr. Cross. Where is he? In a meeting. He'll be available this evening. Lena wanted to argue, to demand, to make Maya understand that this was insane. But Maya's expression made it clear the conversation was over. She spent the afternoon in the library, pulling random books off shelves and trying to read. But the words blurred together. Her mind kept drifting back to Damien's words at breakfast. You look like I felt. Alone in a room full of people. What kind of life did someone like him live? Surrounded by luxury and staff and security, but still alone. Still invisible in his own way. She hated that she was curious about him. Evening came with the soft chime of a clock somewhere in the house. Lena made her way back to the dining room, expecting another silent meal. Instead, she found Damien at the stove, cooking. You cook? She asked from the doorway. He glanced over his shoulder. When Anne has the night off, yes. Hope you like pasta. I thought crime lords had people for that. Crime lord is a bit dramatic. He stirred something in a pan. And sometimes I like doing things myself. Keeps me human. Lena wheeled closer, watching him work. He moved with the same controlled precision he did everything else. Efficient, focused, no wasted motion. Where's your staff? I gave them the evening off. Thought you might appreciate some privacy. Or you didn't want witnesses. To what? My mediocre cooking skills? Despite herself, Lena almost smiled. Maya took my phone. I know. On your orders. Yes. That's not okay, Damien. He turned to face her, wooden spoon in hand. You're right. It's not. But it's necessary. Says who? Says the man who's dealt with enough kidnappings to know that phones are the first thing they use to track people. He set down the spoon. I'm not trying to control you, Lena. I'm trying to keep you alive. By taking away my ability to contact anyone? By eliminating the easiest way for them to find you. He paused. But if it makes you feel better, I'll get you a secure phone tomorrow, one that can't be traced. It was a compromise. A small one, but more than she'd expected. Okay. Okay. Don't make me repeat it. That almost smile appeared again. Wouldn't dream of it. He finished cooking and served 2 plates of pasta with red sauce. It was simple, nothing fancy, but it smelled incredible. They ate at the kitchen island instead of the formal dining room, and somehow that made everything feel less strange. Tell me something about you, Damien said after a few minutes of silence. Why? Because if we're going to be stuck together for a while, we might as well know each other. We don't have to do this. You're not my friend. No, he agreed, but I'm the only person you've got right now, so humor me. Lena twirled pasta around her fork, considering. I used to dance, ballet. It was the only thing I was ever really good at. Used to? The accident took that away, along with everything else. What would you be doing right now, if the accident hadn't happened? Teaching my evening class? Or rehearsing for a performance? Maybe getting drinks with friends after? She set down her fork. Living a life that actually meant something. Your life means something now. Does it? I can't work. I can barely take care of myself. I spend most days alone in my apartment, watching TV and pretending I'm not waiting for my legs to magically start working again. But she met his eyes. That's not a life. That's existing. Existing is underrated. Damien's voice had gone quiet. A lot of people don't even get that. Is that supposed to make me feel better? It's supposed to remind you that you're still here, still breathing, still capable of more than you think. You don't know what I'm capable of. No, but I'd like to find out. There was something in his voice that made Lena's chest tighten. She looked away, focused on her plate. Your turn. Tell me something about you. Like what? Anything. Where you're from, how you ended up running a criminal empire, why you live in a house that feels like a mausoleum. Damien was quiet for a long moment. I grew up in foster care, bounced around between families who saw me as a paycheck or a problem. The only thing I learned was that you can't trust anyone to stay, so I stopped expecting them to. That's bleak. It's honest. He picked up his wine glass, studied it. I built this life from nothing, every inch of it. And yeah, it's cold and empty, but it's mine. No one can take it away. Except yourself. He looked at her sharply. What's that supposed to mean? You've built this fortress, but you're the only prisoner. Lena gestured at the massive, empty house around them. What's the point of having all this if you're alone in it? I'm not alone. I have staff, associates. That's not the same as having people. And you're an expert on having people? The jab landed. Lena flinched. No, I'm an expert on losing them. Damien set down his glass, his expression shifting to something that looked almost like regret. I'm sorry, that was true? Lena finished. Yeah, it was. They finished eating in uncomfortable silence. Damien cleared the plates while Lena sat at the island, feeling the weight of the day pressing down on her. She was tired. So tired. Not just from lack of sleep, but from the constant effort of keeping herself together. Come on, Damien said, moving behind her chair. There's something I want to show you. Where? You'll see. He pushed her through the house, down a hallway she hadn't explored yet. At the end was a door that opened onto a covered patio. Beyond that was a pool, lit from below, the water glowing blue in the darkness. I had Maya set this up earlier, Damien said. The pool has a lift. Thought you might want to swim. Lena stared at the water, her throat tight. I haven't swum since the accident. Why not? Because I can't walk to the edge and dive in. Because I need help getting into the water. Because it's just another reminder of everything I've lost. She turned to look up at him. Why would you think I'd want to do this? Because you told me dancing was the only thing you were good at, and I thought maybe being in the water might feel a little like that, like moving without gravity, like being free. Well, the words hit harder than they should have. Lena looked back at the pool, at the lift waiting by the edge, at the still, perfect water. I don't have a swimsuit. Maya put one in your room, in the top drawer of the dresser. Of course she had. You think of everything, don't you? I try. Lena wheeled herself to the edge of the pool, staring down into the glowing water. Part of her wanted to refuse out of pure stubbornness, but another part, the part that remembered what it felt like to move, to feel strong, to trust her body, that part was desperate to get in. Turn around, she said quietly. What? If I'm doing this, you need to turn around while I change. Damien's mouth curved into something almost like a real smile. Yes, ma'am. He turned his back. Lena wheeled herself to the bathroom attached to the patio and found the swimsuit exactly where he'd said it would be, a simple one-piece, dark blue, athletic. She changed quickly, trying not to think about how vulnerable this made her feel. When she came back out, Damien was still facing away, his hands in his pockets. Ready? As I'll ever be. He turned, and something flickered in his expression when he saw her. But he didn't say anything. He just moved to the lift, operated the controls, and helped her position herself in the seat. The machinery lowered her slowly into the water. The shock of it, the cool slide against her skin, the way it held her weight, made her gasp. Then she was in, and Damien was releasing the harness, and she was floating. For the first time in months, Lena felt weightless. She pushed off from the wall, using her arms to pull herself through the water. Her legs trailed behind her, useless but not heavy. Not anchors, just part of her body, suspended in this beautiful, forgiving space. Damien sat at the edge of the pool, watching. How does it feel? Like I can breathe again, Lena said, and was horrified to realize she was crying. She swam laps, or her version of them, anyway. She wasn't fast. Her arms burned after the first few lengths, but she kept going, pushing herself, feeling the old muscle memory wake up. This wasn't dancing, but it was close. It was movement. It was freedom. When she finally stopped, exhausted, she found Damien had rolled up his pants and was sitting on the edge with his feet in the water. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For this. For seeing what I needed before I knew I needed it. You're welcome. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, Lena floating on her back and staring up at the stars. The sky was clear, the night cool, but not cold. She felt more at peace than she had in months. Can I ask you something? She said eventually. Always. Why do you care? About me, I mean. You don't know me. I'm just someone who got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. So why go to all this trouble? Damien was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and rough. Because when I looked at you in that rain, I saw someone who'd been left behind by everyone who was supposed to matter. And I know what that feels like. I know what it does to you. He paused, and I thought maybe I could be the one person who didn't walk away. Lena's chest ached. You don't owe me anything. I know. Then why? Because maybe I'm tired of being alone too. The admission hung in the air between them, raw and honest. Lena pushed herself to the edge of the pool, close enough to see his face clearly. He looked different in this light, younger somehow, less guarded. We're a mess, aren't we? She said softly. Yeah, we really are. But for the first time since the accident, Lena didn't feel broken. She felt like maybe, just maybe, she could be put back together. And the man sitting beside her, dangerous and damaged and somehow kind, felt like someone who might understand how to do it, even if neither of them had any idea what came next. The next 3 days fell into an uneasy rhythm. Mornings brought breakfast with Damien, sometimes silent, sometimes filled with sharp conversation that felt like verbal sparring. Afternoons, Lena had the house mostly to herself, while Damien disappeared into his office for hours at a time, dealing with whatever dark business kept his empire running. Evenings meant the pool, that glowing sanctuary where she could move and breathe and forget, just for a little while, about everything outside these walls. Damien always sat at the edge and watched, never intrusive, never commenting, just there, present in a way no one else had been in months. On the fourth morning, Lena woke to raised voices downstairs. Male voices, angry and sharp. She dressed quickly and wheeled herself toward the sound, her pulse picking up speed. The voices were coming from Damien's office. The door was partially open. She stopped just outside, listening. "Don't care what Victor wants," Damien was saying, his voice hard and cold. "He doesn't make demands. Not in my territory." "He's not asking, Damien." The other voice was unfamiliar, rough with an accent she couldn't place. "He's telling you, the girl goes back to her life, or this gets messy." "It's already messy. He made it messy when he sent his dogs to Emma Hartley's engagement party. You made it messy when you took her. I saved her. There's a difference. Not to Victor." There was a pause. When Damien spoke again, his voice had dropped to something dangerous. "Tell Victor that Lena Hart is under my protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me. And remind him what happened to the last people who tested me." "You're starting a war over some crippled dancer? That's your play?" The casual cruelty of the words made Lena flinch, but before she could process it, Damien's voice cut through like a blade. "Call her that again, and they'll need dental records to identify you." Silence. Then footsteps heading toward the door. Lena barely had time to wheel herself back before a stocky man in an expensive suit emerged, his face flushed with anger. He looked at her, his lip curling, then walked past without a word. Damien appeared in the doorway seconds later. His expression was controlled, but she could see the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. "How much did you hear?" he asked quietly. "Enough." Lena wheeled closer. "Who was that?" "A messenger from the Volkov family. They want me. They want to use you. It's not the same thing. And you told them no." "I told them to go to hell." Damien ran a hand through his hair, a rare break in his composure. "This is escalating faster than I expected." "What does that mean?" "It means Victor Volkov is pushing harder than he should be, which means something else is going on, something I'm missing." Lena's hands tightened on her wheelchair. "Let me go." Damien's eyes snapped to hers. "What? You heard me? Let me go. Give them what they want and end this before it gets worse." "Absolutely not." "Damien, this is insane. You're starting a war over someone you barely know. I know enough." He crossed the space between them in 2 strides, crouching down so they were eye level. "I know you deserve better than being used as a pawn. I know you've been abandoned enough for one lifetime. And I know that if I let you go, they'll hurt you just to prove they can. You don't know that." "Yes, I do, because I've seen what they do to people who get caught in the middle. I've cleaned up the aftermath, Lena. I've identified bodies that were barely recognizable. So no, I'm not letting you go. Not now. Not ever." The ferocity in his voice stole her breath. "Why are you doing this?" "Because someone has to." That's not an answer. Damien stood abruptly, turning away from her. "It's the only one I have." Before Lena could respond, Maya appeared in the hallway, her face pale. "Mr. Cross, there's a situation." Damien's entire demeanor changed. "What kind of situation?" "Security just reported movement at the north perimeter. 3 vehicles, armed." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Damien's hand went to his phone. "How long?" 5 minutes, maybe less. Get Anne and the others to the safe room, now." He looked at Lena. "You need to come with me." "What's happening?" "They're not waiting for an answer anymore. They're coming for one." He moved behind her chair and started pushing, fast. Maya was already running toward the kitchen. They passed Anne in the hallway, the older woman's expression grim but calm as she headed in the opposite direction. Damien navigated them through the house with practiced efficiency, down a corridor Lena hadn't seen before. At the end was a door that looked like solid wood, but opened to reveal a steel security entrance. He pressed his palm to a scanner, and the door slid open. Beyond was a room that looked like something out of a military bunker. Reinforced walls, monitors showing security camera feeds, a table covered in what Lena realized with a cold jolt were weapons. "This is the safe room," Damien said, wheeling her inside. "You stay here no matter what happens. The door only opens from the inside once it's sealed. There's food, water, medical supplies. If something happens to me, don't." Lena grabbed his wrist. "Don't talk like that. If something happens to me," he continued, his voice steady, "there's a phone in that drawer. It has one number programmed. Press it, and someone will come get you. Someone I trust." "Damien, promise me, Lena." She wanted to argue, to tell him this was crazy, that there had to be another way, but the look in his eyes stopped her. "I promise." "Good." He started to pull away, but she held on. "What are you going to do?" "What I always do. Handle it." "That's not reassuring." His mouth quirked despite everything. "I'm not good at reassuring." He covered her hand with his, just for a moment. "But I'm very good at this. Trust me." Then he was gone, the steel door sliding shut behind him with a finality that made Lena's chest ache. She sat in that cold, secure room, staring at the monitors. She could see the front gate, the driveway, different angles of the house. And there, on the north perimeter camera, 3 black SUVs rolling to a stop. Men poured out. 8, maybe 10, all armed, all moving with military precision toward the house. On another monitor, she watched Damien emerge from a side entrance. He wasn't alone. 4 men flanked him, all carrying weapons. Security she hadn't known existed. One of the men from the SUVs stepped forward. Even through the grainy camera feed, Lena could see he was older, gray-haired, with the bearing of someone used to being obeyed. The audio was muffled, but she could make out fragments of conversation. "Unreasonable, Cross. All this for a girl?" Damien's response was too quiet to hear, but his body language was clear. He wasn't backing down. The older man gestured sharply. 2 of his men moved forward. Damien's security raised their weapons. "No," Lena whispered, her hands pressed against the monitor. "Don't do this." For a moment, everything froze. 10 men with guns, all pointed at each other, all waiting for someone to make the first move. Then the older man laughed. The sound was wrong, too casual, too amused for a standoff. He said something else, gestured again, and his men lowered their weapons. Damien didn't lower his. The conversation continued for several more minutes. Lena watched, her heart hammering, unable to hear what was being said. Finally, the older man turned and walked back to his vehicle. His men followed. The SUVs pulled away, disappearing down the private road. Damien stood there for a long moment, watching them go. Then he turned and headed back to the house. 5 minutes later, the safe room door slid open. Damien stepped inside, and Lena could see the tension still riding his shoulders. "What happened?" she asked. "Negotiation." That looked like more than negotiation. It was a threat dressed up as negotiation. He moved to the table, started unloading a weapon Lena tried not to look at too closely. Victor made his position clear. He wants you. He's willing to offer a trade. A trade for what? Territory, business interests, things that matter more to him than they should. Damien set down the weapon with more force than necessary. "He thinks you're my weakness. He thinks if he pushes hard enough, I'll break." "Maybe you should." He turned to look at her. "What?" "Maybe you should make the trade. Give him what he wants. End this before someone gets killed." "You don't understand what you're asking. I understand that people are going to die because of me. Because you decided I was worth protecting." Lena's voice cracked. "I'm not worth a war, Damien." He crossed the room in 3 strides, gripped the arms of her wheelchair, brought his face close to hers. "Don't ever say that again." "It's true." "It's not. You want to know why Victor is pushing so hard? Why he's willing to risk everything for one person?" His eyes blazed. "Because he knows that if I back down on this, I'll back down on anything. Because you're not just some random woman to him. You're a test. And if I fail it, I lose everything I've built." "So this is about your reputation?" "No. This is about not letting bastards like Viktor Volkov decide who matters and who doesn't." He released the wheelchair, stepped back. You think you're not worth fighting for. I think you're the only thing worth fighting for. The words hung between them, raw and impossible. Lena couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stare at this dangerous man who kept saying things that made her walls crumble. You don't mean that, she whispered. I mean every word. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, his expression darkening as he read the message. What is it? Problem. He typed something quickly. Victor's people just hit one of my warehouses. Small crew, minimal damage, but it's a message. What kind of message? The kind that says this isn't over. He looked at her, and for the first time she saw something like fear in his eyes. I need to handle this, but I need to know you're safe first. I'll stay in the safe room. No, that's not good enough anymore. He made a decision. She could see it happen. I'm moving you. Moving me where? Somewhere even Victor can't reach. A place outside the city. It's more secure, more isolated. You'll be safe there while I deal with this. Damien, this isn't a discussion, Lena. Pack whatever you need. We leave in an hour. He was gone before she could argue, leaving her alone in the safe room with monitors showing an empty driveway and the ghost of his words echoing in her head. You're the only thing worth fighting for. The hour passed in a blur. Maya appeared with a bag already packed, her expression tight but professional. She helped Lena back to the main house, where Damien was waiting by a different car, something dark and armored that looked like it could survive a war. Where are the others? Lena asked. Anne? Your security? Staying here, making it look like nothing's changed. Damien loaded her wheelchair into the trunk. We're going dark for a few days. No staff, no backup, just us. That sounds dangerous. It's safer than the alternative. He helped her into the passenger seat with the same careful attention he always used, then got behind the wheel. They pulled out of the garage as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red that looked too much like fire. They drove for hours. Damien didn't tell her where they were going, and Lena didn't ask. She watched the landscape change from suburbs to farmland to dense forest. The roads got narrower, less maintained. Civilization fell away until there was nothing but trees and darkness and the steady hum of the engine. Tell me something, Damien said eventually, breaking the silence. Like what? Anything. I need to hear your voice right now. The admission was so unguarded it made her chest ache. What do you want to know? What made you fall in love with dancing? Lena closed her eyes, let herself remember. My mom took me to see the Nutcracker when I was 6. I'd never seen anything like it. The way they moved, the way they made it look effortless even though I could tell it wasn't, the way they told stories with their bodies. She smiled despite everything. I went home and tried to recreate it in our living room. Fell on my face about 20 times. Mom signed me up for lessons the next week. Were you good? I was obsessed. That's not the same as good. But I worked harder than anyone else. I practiced until my feet bled, until I could barely walk some days. And slowly, I got better. Good enough to get into a professional company. Good enough to teach. Good enough to make it your whole life. Yeah. The word came out heavy. That's the problem with making something your whole life. When you lose it, you lose yourself too. Damien's hand found hers in the darkness. You haven't lost yourself. You've just lost the container you were keeping yourself in. There's a difference. That sounds like something you read in a fortune cookie. It sounds like something I learned the hard way. His thumb traced circles on her palm. I spent years building this empire, becoming someone people feared, someone who mattered, and then I realized I'd built a prison, just a really expensive one. So why don't you leave? Because I don't know who I am without it, same as you don't know who you are without dancing. His words struck too close to home. Lena looked down at their joined hands. We're both pretty broken, aren't we? Yeah, but maybe broken pieces can fit together in new ways. Before she could process that, headlights appeared in the rear-view mirror. Damien's entire body went tense. He checked the mirror, checked again, then pressed down on the accelerator. What's wrong? Lena asked. We're being followed. She twisted to look behind them. 2 sets of headlights, getting closer. Are you sure? I've been watching them for the last 10 miles. They're matching our speed, keeping their distance. That's not a coincidence. What do we do? Hold on. He took a sharp turn onto an even narrower road, the car fishtailing slightly before he corrected. The headlights followed. Damien cursed under his breath and pushed the car faster. The forest blurred past. Lena gripped the door handle, her heart racing. The headlights behind them were gaining ground. "There's a turnoff coming up," Damien said, his voice tight with focus. "When I take it, I need you to get down, as low as you can go." "Damien, do it, Lena, please." She unbuckled, awkwardly maneuvered herself down into the footwell. It was cramped and uncomfortable, but she managed it. Above her, she heard Damien take a sharp breath. Then he cut the wheel hard. The car went off the paved road onto what felt like gravel, then dirt. Trees scraped against the sides. Lena braced herself, trying not to think about what would happen if they crashed, if her body broke again in ways that couldn't be fixed. The car jerked to a stop. Damien killed the engine, killed the lights. Darkness swallowed them whole. "Stay down," he whispered. "Don't move. Don't make a sound." Lena held her breath. She could hear her own heartbeat, loud and frantic. Could hear Damien's breathing, controlled but fast. Could hear, in the distance, the sound of engines. The pursuing cars passed on the main road. She counted 1, 2 vehicles. They didn't slow down, didn't stop. Just kept going, their taillights fading into the night. Silence settled, thick and tense. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, Damien exhaled. "They're gone." "Are you sure?" "No, but we can't stay here." He restarted the engine but kept the lights off. "I'm going to navigate by moonlight for a bit. Stay down until I tell you it's safe." They drove slowly, carefully, through what felt like pure wilderness. Lena stayed curled in the footwell, every bump and turn reminding her of the fragility of her body, her situation, her life. Finally, Damien said, "Okay, you can come up." She struggled back into the seat, every muscle protesting. They were on a narrow dirt road now, trees pressing close on either side. Ahead, she could make out the dark shape of a structure. "What is this place?" she asked. "Somewhere I bought years ago and never told anyone about, not even Victor." He pulled up to what looked like a cabin, small and rustic. "It's not fancy, but it's secure." He helped her out of the car, got her settled in the wheelchair, and pushed her up a ramp that had clearly been added recently. Inside, the cabin was exactly what it looked like from outside. One large room with a kitchenette, a bathroom, and a loft accessible by ladder. "There's a bedroom through there," Damien said, gesturing to a door she'd missed. "Ground floor. I had it set up with accessibility in mind." "When did you do this?" 3 days ago, when I realized things might get worse before they got better." He moved around the cabin, checking windows, securing locks. "I've been preparing for this possibility since the night I brought you home." Lena watched him move, watched the way his shoulders carried tension he refused to acknowledge. "You knew this would happen. I knew Victor would push. I just didn't know how hard." He finished his security check and turned to face her. "I'm sorry for all of this, for putting you in danger, for—" "Stop apologizing and come here." He crossed to her slowly, like he wasn't sure what she wanted. Lena reached up, took his hand, and pulled him down until he was kneeling in front of her chair. "You saved my life," she said quietly. "Multiple times now. You've given me a place to stay, food to eat, a pool to swim in. You've seen me at my worst and you haven't run." Her voice cracked. "Everyone else ran. Derek, my friends, even my family in their own way. But you stayed, so stop apologizing for the danger. I'd rather be in danger with you than safe and alone." Damien's eyes were dark, intense, searching her face like he was looking for the lie. "You don't mean that." "I do. Lena, I've spent 6 months feeling invisible, feeling like I don't matter, like I'm just a problem people have to deal with." She held his gaze. "You make me feel like I matter, like I'm worth something more than pity. So no, I don't want you to apologize. I want you to keep fighting. For both of us." For a moment, he didn't move, didn't speak. Then his hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across her cheek with a gentleness that broke something inside her. "You're the strongest person I've ever met," he said, his voice rough. And you have no idea, do you? I'm not strong. I'm just tired of being weak. That's the same thing. Then he was kissing her. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was desperate and hungry and full of all the things neither of them knew how to say. Lena kissed him back with equal desperation, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Damien rested his forehead against hers. This is a bad idea. Probably the worst. I'm dangerous. My life is dangerous. You deserve better. I'm tired of people telling me what I deserve. She pulled back enough to look at him. I want this. I want you, even if it's complicated and dangerous and completely insane. Lena. A sound outside made them both freeze. Damien was on his feet in an instant, hand going to a weapon Lena hadn't seen him draw. He moved to the window, peered out through a gap in the curtains. What is it? She whispered. I don't know. Stay here. He moved to the door, opened it a crack. Cold air rushed in. Lena held her breath, straining to hear anything. Then Damien went rigid. No, he said, his voice hollow. No, that's not possible. What? Damien, what's wrong? He closed the door, locked it, and turned to face her. His expression had gone blank, carefully controlled in a way that terrified her. We need to get you to the bathroom, now. Why? What did you see? More cars. At least 4. He was already moving, pushing her wheelchair toward the bathroom. They found us. I don't know how, but they found us. The people following us weren't just following, they were tracking. He pulled her into the bathroom, which was larger than she'd expected. Reinforced walls, she realized. Another safe room. There's a tracker on this property somewhere, which means someone I trusted betrayed me. The implications hit like a physical blow. Who? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. He pressed something into her hand. A gun. Do you know how to use this? No. Safety's here. Point and pull the trigger. Don't hesitate if someone comes through that door who isn't me. His eyes met hers, and she saw fear there. Real, genuine fear. Whatever happens, whatever you hear, you stay in here. You don't come out until I come get you. Understand? Damien, you can't go out there alone. I've been doing this since before you knew my name. I'll be fine. But his voice shook slightly on the last word, betraying him. Lena grabbed his wrist. Don't you dare die on me. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Or something deeper. I'll do my best. He kissed her forehead, quick and hard. Locked the door behind me. Then he was gone, and Lena was alone in a bathroom that felt like a tomb, holding a gun she didn't know how to use, listening to the sound of footsteps surrounding the cabin like wolves closing in for the kill. The lock clicked into place with a sound that felt too final. Lena sat in the darkness of the reinforced bathroom, the gun heavy and foreign in her lap, and tried to control her breathing. Panic wouldn't help. Panic would only make things worse. Outside, she could hear voices. Men shouting orders, footsteps crunching on gravel. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Damien's voice, calm and cold. You're trespassing on private property. Leave now and we'll call this a misunderstanding. A laugh. Deep, rough, unmistakably hostile. Still playing games, Cross? We tracked you here. We know the girl's inside. Make this easy on yourself. Nothing about this is easy. Then we do it the hard way. Gunfire erupted. Lena flinched, her hands flying to her ears. The sound was deafening even through the reinforced walls. Glass shattered, wood splintered, men shouted, and underneath it all the steady rhythm of Damien returning fire. She pressed herself against the wall, trying to make herself small, trying not to imagine what was happening out there. The gun in her lap felt like a joke. What was she supposed to do with it? She could barely hold it steady, let alone aim. The firefight lasted less than a minute but felt like an eternity. Then, sudden silence. Lena held her breath, straining to hear. Footsteps. Someone moving through the cabin. Coming closer. Her finger found the safety on the gun, clicked it off the way Damien had shown her. She raised the weapon with shaking hands, aimed it at the door. The handle turned. Lena, it's me. Don't shoot. Damien's voice. She nearly sobbed with relief. Are you okay? Open the door. She unlocked it, and he stumbled inside. Blood stained his shirt. Too much blood. His face was pale, his movements careful in a way that screamed pain. Oh my God, Lena breathed. You're hurt. I'm fine, just a graze. But the way he leaned against the wall said otherwise. We need to move. Now. There'll be more. You're bleeding. I said I'm fine. His voice came out sharper than he probably intended. He took a breath, softened. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She nodded, set the gun aside. Damien pulled her wheelchair through the doorway, and Lena's breath caught at the destruction outside. The cabin's front window was blown out. Bullet holes punctured the walls. 3 bodies lay motionless on the floor. She tried not to look at them. Failed. They're dead? Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. Yes. Damien didn't apologize for it, didn't offer comfort. He just wheeled her past the carnage to the door. The car's still functional. We have maybe 10 minutes before reinforcements arrive. He got her into the passenger seat, threw the wheelchair in the trunk, and slid behind the wheel. His movements were getting slower. The blood on his shirt was spreading. Damien, you need a hospital. Hospital means questions. Questions mean police. Police mean Victor finds out exactly where we are. He started the engine. I've got a first aid kit. I'll patch myself up once we're somewhere safe. Where is safe anymore? I'm working on that. They drove into the forest, no headlights. Damien navigating by moonlight and what looked like pure instinct. Lena watched him in the dim glow of the dashboard. His jaw was clenched, his breathing shallow. Every bump in the road made him wince. Talk to me, she said. Keep yourself conscious. I'm conscious. Then tell me how they found us. You said someone betrayed you. His hands tightened on the wheel. The only people who knew about that cabin were me and the contractor who did the accessibility modifications. I paid him well to keep quiet, apparently not well enough. Or someone else found out. Or that. He took a turn too fast, corrected. Doesn't matter now. What matters is getting you somewhere they can't reach. What about you? I'll figure it out. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. He glanced at her, and even in the darkness she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. I'm sorry for all of this. You didn't ask for any of it. Neither did you. I chose this life. You just got caught in the crossfire. Lena reached over, placed her hand on his arm. Stop acting like you regret protecting me, because I don't regret it, not for a second. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. You should. They drove for another 30 minutes before Damien pulled off onto what barely qualified as a road. At the end was a small motel, the kind that had seen better decades. Half the neon sign was burned out. Only 3 cars sat in the parking lot. We're staying here? Lena asked. Just for a few hours, while I figure out our next move. He parked in the shadows, away from the office. Wait here. He disappeared inside the motel office, returning 5 minutes later with a key. He drove to a room at the far end of the building, backed in so the car faced the exit. Paranoia or preparation, Lena wasn't sure anymore. The room was exactly as depressing as she'd expected. Faded wallpaper, sagging bed, smell of old cigarettes and industrial cleaner. But it had a ground floor entrance and a bathroom, which was more than some places. Damien helped her inside, then immediately locked the door, drew the curtains, and wedged a chair under the handle. Only then did he allow himself to lean against the wall, his face going gray. First aid kit, Lena said. Where is it? In the car, but I can... Sit down before you fall down. He looked like he wanted to argue. Instead, he lowered himself onto the edge of the bed with a grimace. Lena wheeled herself to the door. What are you doing? He asked. Getting the first aid kit, unless you'd rather bleed to death while being stubborn. Lena, you can't... Watch me. She unlocked the door, rolled herself to the car, and found the kit in the back seat. By the time she returned, Damien had removed his shirt. The wound was high on his left side, an angry gash that was still bleeding sluggishly. You said it was a graze, Lena said, her voice tight. It is. That's not a graze, that's a... I don't know what that is, but it's bad. I've had worse, He took the kit from her, opened it. His hands were shaking slightly. Lena rolled closer. Let me. You don't have to. Damien, let me help you. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Trust, maybe. Or just exhaustion. He handed her the antiseptic and gauze. Lena had never done this before. Had never cleaned a bullet wound. Never held someone's life in her hands quite this literally. But she remembered watching medical shows. Remembered basic first aid from the ballet company's safety training. She worked carefully, methodically, trying not to think about the fact that this was Damien's blood on her hands, Damien's pain making him bite back groans. You're good at this, he said through clenched teeth. I'm improvising and praying I don't kill you. That's most of life, honestly. Despite everything, she almost smiled. She finished cleaning the wound, applied pressure to stop the bleeding. His skin was warm under her hands, his heartbeat strong and steady. Alive. He was alive. It needs stitches, she said quietly. I know. I'll do them in a minute. You're going to stitch yourself up? Not the first time. The casual way he said it made her chest ache. What kind of life had he lived where stitching his own wounds was routine? She watched as he threaded a needle with steady hands, then started suturing the wound with a competence that spoke of too much practice. Where did you learn to do that? She asked. Trial and error. Mostly error. He pulled the thread through, his jaw tight. When I was younger, hospitals meant questions. Questions meant social services. Social services meant getting sent back to foster homes that didn't want me. So I learned to take care of myself. Damien, that's horrible. It's life, at least it was mine. He finished the last stitch, cut the thread. Could you hand me that bandage? She helped him dress the wound, her hands gentler than they needed to be. When she was done, he caught her wrist. Thank you, he said softly. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. You didn't have to help. You could have let me suffer through it alone. His thumb traced circles on her wrist. Everyone else would have. I'm not everyone else. No, you're really not. He was looking at her with that intensity again, the one that made her feel seen and vulnerable and terrified all at once. Lena pulled her hand back, needing distance, needing to think. What happens now? She asked. Damien reached for his phone, winced at the movement. Now I make some calls, find out who betrayed me, figure out where we go next. And if you can't, then we keep running until I can. That's not a plan. It's the best I've got. He stood carefully, moved to the window, peered through a gap in the curtains. Victor's getting desperate. That attack at the cabin, that wasn't just about finding you. That was about sending a message, about proving he could get to me anywhere. What message? That I'm weak, that I've lost control, that protecting you is making me vulnerable. He turned to face her. In my world, perception is everything. If people think I'm weak, I become weak. Challenges come from everywhere. Alliances crumble. Everything I've built falls apart. Then let me go. No, Damien. I said no. His voice was hard, final. I'm not negotiating this, not with you, not with Victor, not with anyone. Why are you being so stubborn about this? Because giving you up would be the smart play, the strategic play, the play everyone expects me to make. He crossed to her, knelt down so they were eye level. And I'm tired of being smart. I'm tired of sacrificing what matters for what's strategic. For once in my miserable life, I want to choose something because it's right, not because it's profitable. I'm not a cause, Damien. I'm not some noble sacrifice. You're the first person in 20 years who's made me feel like I'm more than the sum of my worst decisions. His hand cupped her face. You're the first person who's looked at me and seen something worth saving. So no, I'm not letting you go. Not now, not ever. Even if it costs me everything. The raw honesty in his voice stole her breath. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're strong enough to survive things that would have broken anyone else. I know you're kind even when the world hasn't been kind to you. I know that when you look at me, you don't see a monster. You see... He stopped, shook his head. I don't know what you see, but it's more than I deserve. I see someone who stayed, Lena whispered. Someone who fights for what he cares about. Someone who's been hurt but hasn't let it make him cruel. She covered his hand with hers. I see someone worth knowing, worth trusting, worth... The window exploded inward. Glass rained down as Damien threw himself over Lena, shielding her body with his. Something metal clattered across the floor, round, smoking. Flashbang, Damien shouted. Close your eyes! The world went white and screaming, sound and light and pain all at once. Lena couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't think. She felt Damien's weight on her, felt him moving, felt her wheelchair rolling. Then they were in the bathroom. The door slammed. Damien's hands were on her face, checking for injuries. Are you hurt? Lena, are you hurt? She couldn't hear her own voice, couldn't hear his. The ringing in her ears was too loud. But she shook her head, and relief flooded his expression. The bathroom door shuddered. Someone was trying to break it down. Damien pulled his gun, moved to the door. His lips were moving, but Lena couldn't make out the words. The ringing was starting to fade, replaced by muffled sounds. Shouting, footsteps. More than one person. The door splintered. Damien fired through it. Someone screamed. The assault stopped for a moment, then renewed with more force. He turned to her, his expression grim. He was saying something. She read his lips. Stay down. The door gave way. Two men burst through, weapons raised. Damien fired twice in quick succession. Both men dropped. But there was a third coming through fast, and Damien's gun was empty. The man's weapon swung toward Lena. Damien threw himself in front of her. The shot was impossibly loud in the small space. Damien jerked, stumbled back against her wheelchair. For a moment, everything froze. Then Damien surged forward, closing the distance before the shooter could fire again. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisted, and the gun clattered away. They fought. Brutal, close, desperate. Damien was hurt, bleeding from his fresh wound, but he fought with a ferocity that was terrifying to watch. He got the man in a chokehold, squeezed. The man's struggles grew weaker, then stopped. Damien let the body drop and turned to Lena. Blood was spreading across his shirt from multiple places now, the old wound reopened, new injuries she couldn't see yet. We have to go, he said, his voice hoarse. Right now. He got her into the wheelchair, pushed her over the bodies, through the destroyed motel room. Outside, more cars were arriving, headlights cutting through the darkness. Damien got her to their car, threw her wheelchair in the trunk. His movements were getting sloppy, uncoordinated. Too much blood loss. Damien, I know. He started the engine, floored it. Bullets pinged off the car as they peeled out of the parking lot. I know. They made it maybe 3 miles before he started to swerve. Pull over, Lena said. Damien, pull over before you kill us both. Can't stop, they'll catch up. You're going to crash. Better than... He didn't finish. The car drifted into the other lane, and he overcorrected hard. Okay, you're right. He pulled onto a side road, drove until he found a cluster of trees, and tucked the car behind them. The moment he put it in park, he slumped forward against the wheel. Damien! Lena shook his shoulder. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Fine. Just need a minute. You need a hospital. No hospitals. You're going to die. Probably. He tried to smile. But not yet. Still got work to do. She wanted to scream at him, to shake sense into him, to make him understand that his stubborn refusal to ask for help was going to get him killed. But she knew that look in his eyes, knew he'd keep going until his body gave out completely. The phone, she said. The secure one you were going to get me. Do you have it? He gestured weakly toward the glove box. She found it, powered it on. Who do I call? Contacts, Marcus. Tell him... He coughed, and blood flecked his lips. Tell him code silver. He'll know what to do. Lena found the contact, pressed call. It rang 3 times before a gruff voice answered. Who is this? My name is Lena Hart. Damien told me to call. He said code silver. A pause. Where are you? I don't know. Somewhere outside the city, in the woods. He's hurt, badly. He needs help. Turn on the phone's location services. I'll track you. Can you hold position for 20 minutes? I don't know. There are people following us. 20 minutes, Miss Hart. Keep him conscious. Keep him talking. I'm on my way. The line went dead. Lena turned to Damien, who was still slumped against the wheel. Help is coming. 20 minutes. You have to stay awake. Tired. I know, but you don't get to check out on me yet. We had a deal, remember? You don't die, I don't die. That was the deal. Don't remember agreeing to that. Well, I'm telling you now, so keep your eyes open and talk to me. He forced his eyes open, looked at her. What do you want me to say? Anything. Everything. Tell me about the first time you felt safe. Never felt safe. There has to be something. He was quiet for so long she thought he'd passed out. Then, when I was 12, I stayed with this family, the Johnsons. They had a real house, not an apartment, a yard, a dog. His voice was getting softer. Mrs. Johnson made breakfast every morning. Real breakfast. Eggs, bacon, toast. She'd ask about my day like she actually cared about the answer. What happened? I got into a fight at school, broke another kid's nose. They sent me back to the group home. He coughed again. Should have controlled my temper. Should have been better. You were 12. You were allowed to make mistakes. Not in my world. Mistakes got you sent away, got you forgotten. His eyes were drifting closed. Don't want to be forgotten. Hey, look at me. Lena reached over, grabbed his face, forced him to meet her eyes. You are not forgettable. You are not going to be sent away. And you are not allowed to die before I get to know you better. Understand? Bossy, you have no idea. She kept her hands on his face, kept eye contact. Tell me something else. Tell me what you were going to do after all this, when Victor was handled and I was safe. What was the plan? Didn't have one past keeping you alive. Make one now. He tried to focus, struggled. Wanted to maybe take you somewhere without danger, without people trying to kill us, somewhere you could swim without walls around the pool. His words were slurring. Wanted to see you happy, really happy, not just surviving. We'll do that, Lena said fiercely. We'll go somewhere safe. You'll teach me more about who you really are when you're not fighting for your life. We'll figure out what happens next, together. Together sounds nice. Then stay with me. Stay conscious. Help is coming. The 20 minutes felt like 20 hours. Lena kept talking, kept Damien engaged, watched the color drain from his face as blood continued to seep through his makeshift bandages. Every time his eyes started to close, she'd shake him, say his name, pull him back from wherever he was trying to go. Finally, headlights appeared. A black SUV pulled up beside their car. A man got out, tall, built like he'd spent years in the military, face hard and weathered. Marcus? Lena asked. He nodded, moved immediately to Damien's side of the car. Jesus, boss, you look like hell. Feel worse, Damien managed. Marcus opened the door, assessed the injuries with practiced efficiency. We need to move him. My vehicle's better equipped. Can you transfer yourself, Miss Hart? Yes. Between the two of them, they got Damien into the back of Marcus's SUV, which did indeed look better equipped, more like a mobile medical unit than a vehicle. Marcus had Lena settled in the passenger seat within minutes. Where are we going? She asked. Safe house, real one this time. One Victor doesn't know about. He pulled out onto the road, driving fast but controlled. Got a doctor waiting. In the back, Damien made a sound that might have been protest. Don't even start, Marcus said without looking back. You're half dead and stubborn as hell, but you're not dying on my watch. Boss's orders. Your orders, actually, from about 6 months ago when you made me promise to keep you alive no matter how stupid you got. Despite everything, Damien laughed. It turned into a cough. Forgot about that. Yeah, well, I didn't. They drove for another 40 minutes, deep into territory Lena didn't recognize. The safe house turned out to be an actual house. Suburban, ordinary, completely unremarkable. Which was probably the point. The doctor was waiting inside, a thin woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor. She took one look at Damien and started barking orders. They got him onto a table. The doctor cut away his shirt, revealed the full extent of the damage. Lena felt sick looking at it. Out, the doctor said. Both of you. I need to work. I'm staying, Lena said. Miss Hart, I'm staying. The doctor looked at Marcus, who shrugged. Your funeral. Just stay out of my way. For the next hour, Lena watched the doctor work. Watched her clean wounds, stitch deeper than Damien had, remove a bullet fragment he apparently hadn't noticed, pump him full of antibiotics and saline. Through it all, Damien drifted in and out of consciousness, his face pale as death. But he was breathing, his heart was beating. He was alive. Finally, the doctor stepped back. He'll live. Barely. Needs rest, antibiotics, probably a week of bed rest minimum. She looked at Lena. Can you keep him down that long? I'll find a way. Good. She stripped off her gloves. I'll check on him tomorrow. Marcus has my number if anything changes. After she left, Marcus helped Lena transfer Damien to a bedroom on the ground floor. They got him settled, hooked up to an IV, covered with blankets. You should rest too, Marcus said. You look dead on your feet. I'm fine. That's what he always says, right before he collapses. Marcus headed for the door. I'll be in the next room if you need anything. And Miss Hart? For what it's worth, I've known Damien for 8 years. I've never seen him fight this hard for anything, or anyone. What are you saying? I'm saying whatever you two have, it's real, and it's worth protecting. He paused in the doorway. He's worth protecting, even when he doesn't think so. Then he was gone, and Lena was alone with Damien's shallow breathing and the steady drip of the IV. She wheeled closer to the bed, reached out, and took his hand. His skin was cool, clammy, but his fingers curled around hers, holding on even in sleep. You scared me, she whispered. When you threw yourself in front of that gun, when I thought you were going to die, I've never been that terrified in my life, not even during the accident. He didn't answer, didn't move, but his grip on her hand tightened slightly. I need you to wake up, she continued. I need you to be okay, because I just realized something, and I need to tell you while I still have the courage. His eyes opened, barely, but enough. Lena, he breathed. I'm here. I'm right here. Thought I lost you, in the motel, when that gun was pointed at you. You didn't lose me. You saved me. Again. Always. His voice was barely audible. Always gonna save you. I know. She brought his hand to her lips, kissed his knuckles. Now you need to save yourself. Rest. Heal. Let me take care of you for once. Okay. His eyes were drifting closed again. Lena? Yeah? Don't leave. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? She thought about everything that had brought them here. The accident, the party, the rain, the danger, the blood, the fear. Thought about how this man had seen her at her lowest and stayed anyway. Had fought for her when everyone else had walked away. Had thrown himself between her and death without hesitation. I promise, she whispered. His breathing evened out, deepened. He was asleep, but his hand never let go of hers. Lena sat there in the darkness, listening to him breathe, feeling the weight of what they'd survived. They weren't safe yet. Victor was still out there. The betrayal still needed to be uncovered. The war they'd started was far from over. But right now, in this moment, Damien was alive, she was alive. And they were together. That was enough. Dawn came slowly, gray light filtering through curtains that Lena hadn't bothered to close. She'd spent the entire night in her wheelchair beside Damien's bed, watching the rise and fall of his chest, counting each breath like a prayer. Her back ached. Her arms were sore from holding his hand for hours. She didn't care. Around 6, his eyes opened, really opened, with clarity she hadn't seen since before the motel. You're still here, he said, his voice rough from disuse. I promised I wouldn't leave. People break promises. I don't. She squeezed his hand. How do you feel? Like I got shot. Twice. He tried to sit up, winced, thought better of it. How long was I out? About 8 hours. The doctor said you need at least a week of rest. Don't have a week. You're making time. Marcus's orders. Also mine. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. When did you get so bossy? When you decided dying was a viable option. She released his hand to pour him water from the pitcher on the nightstand. Drink this. He obeyed, studying her over the rim of the glass. You look exhausted. I wonder why. You should sleep. So should you. I just did. For 8 hours after nearly bleeding to death. That's not the same as actual rest. They stared at each other, both stubborn, both exhausted. Finally, Damien sighed. Come here, he said. What? The bed's big enough for both of us. You need sleep. I need sleep. And I need to know you're close. So, come here. Lena hesitated. The bed was accessible, low enough that she could transfer herself. But something about the intimacy of it, about lying beside him, felt like crossing a line they couldn't uncross. Then again, they'd already crossed so many lines. What was one more? She maneuvered her wheelchair beside the bed and transferred herself carefully. Damien shifted over to make room, his movements slow and pained. Once she was settled, he reached for her, pulled her against his uninjured side. This okay? He asked quietly. Yeah. She rested her head on his shoulder, felt his heartbeat steady and strong beneath her ear. This is okay. They slept. When Lena woke again, sunlight was streaming through the windows and voices were coming from the other room. She extracted herself carefully from Damien's embrace. He was still sleeping, his face finally peaceful, and transferred back to her wheelchair. In the kitchen, she found Marcus and 2 other men she didn't recognize. They all looked up when she entered. Miss Hart, Marcus said. How's the patient? Still sleeping. How are things out there? Marcus's expression darkened. Victor's people hit 3 more of Damien's operations last night. Warehouses, businesses, supply lines. He's going scorched earth. Because of me. Because he's losing control, and he knows it. One of the other men spoke up, younger, with sharp eyes and a scar across his jaw. Victor thought Damien would trade you. When he didn't, it made Victor look weak. Now he's overcompensating. Overcompensating by destroying everything Damien's built? By trying to force his hand. Marcus poured coffee, handed her a cup. But there's something else. We've been digging into who betrayed Damien, who told Victor about the cabin. Lena's hands tightened on the cup. And? It wasn't the contractor. Marcus exchanged glances with the other men. It was someone closer, someone inside Damien's organization. The implication hit like a physical blow. Who? We're still working on that, but when we find out, you'll tell me first. Damien's voice came from the doorway. He was leaning against the frame, still pale but upright. Before you do anything, you tell me. Boss, you should be in bed. I've been in bed long enough. He moved into the kitchen, his movements careful but steady. What else do we know? For the next 30 minutes, Lena listened as Marcus and the others briefed Damien on the situation. Victor had consolidated power, called in favors, was preparing for an all-out war. Several of Damien's allies had gone quiet, either bought off or too afraid to choose sides. The empire Damien had built was fracturing, and it was all because he'd refused to give her up. The weight of it pressed down on Lena's chest until she could barely breathe. When the men finally left to handle various crises, she turned to Damien. This has to stop. He looked at her. What has to stop? This, all of it. You losing everything because you're protecting me. It's not worth it, Damien. We've had this conversation, and we're having it again. She wheeled closer. I'm not worth your empire. I'm not worth your life. So end this. Make the trade. Give Victor what he wants and save what you've built. Damien's jaw clenched. No. Why are you being so stubborn about this? Because you're asking me to choose between my empire and you, and that's not a choice. It's not even close. Your empire is everything you've worked for. My empire is buildings and money and power built on fear and violence. You're the first real thing I've had in 20 years. He crossed to her, knelt down so they were eye level. I told you before, I'm tired of being smart. I'm tired of sacrificing what matters for what's strategic. And you matter, Lena, more than any of this. That's insane. Probably, but it's also true. His hand cupped her face. I've spent my entire life alone, building walls, keeping people at a distance, trusting no one. And then you showed up, broken and abandoned, and still somehow stronger than anyone I've ever met. You made me feel human again. You made me want things I'd given up on. Safety, trust, something that looks like a future. His voice dropped. So no, I'm not giving you up. Not for Victor. Not for my empire. Not for anything. Lena's throat was tight. What if I can't give you what you need? What if I'm just as broken as you think you are? Then we'll be broken together. And maybe we'll figure out how to put each other back together. He leaned forward, rested his forehead against hers. I'm not asking you to be perfect, Lena. I'm asking you to stay, to fight with me, to choose this mess we've made over the emptiness we both had before. She wanted to argue, to point out all the reasons this was a terrible idea, but when she opened her mouth, what came out was, okay, I'll stay, I'll fight, but on one condition. Name it. We end this, not by giving me up, by finishing Victor, together. Damien pulled back, studied her face. That's dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous. At least this way, we're taking control instead of just reacting. You have a plan? No, but you do. I can see it in your eyes. You've been planning something since the moment you woke up. He almost smiled. You're getting good at reading me. So tell me, what's the plan? Damien stood, moved to the window. Victor's weakness is his ego. He's gone public with this war because he wants everyone to know he's taking me down, which means he's exposed himself, made himself a target. You're going to go after him directly. We're going to go after him directly, but not the way he expects. Damien turned to face her. Victor thinks I'm weak because of you, that I've lost my edge, my ruthlessness, my ability to make hard choices. We're going to use that against him. How? By giving him exactly what he thinks he wants, a meeting, face to face, me and him negotiating terms. Damien's expression went cold. And when he shows up expecting me to surrender, we take him apart. That's suicide. He'll bring an army. So will I, but mine will be better positioned, better prepared, and highly motivated. He moved closer. I've got people Victor thinks he's turned, people who are actually feeding me information, waiting for the right moment. We use that. We set a trap, and we end this once and for all. Lena's mind raced through the implications. When? 2 days. That's how long I need to set everything up and make sure my people are in place. That's also how long the doctor said I needed before I should even think about moving around. You're not following the doctor's orders, not even a little bit. He knelt in front of her again. But I need to know you're okay with this, with what I'm asking. Because once we do this, there's no going back. Victor dies or I do. Those are the only two outcomes. Then we make sure it's him. Lena took his hands. But I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. I'm coming with you, she repeated firmly. Victor thinks I'm your weakness. We use that. I show up at this meeting and he'll be so focused on me, on proving he was right, that he won't see the trap closing until it's too late. Lena, if anything goes wrong, we handle it. Together. Like you said. She held his gaze. I'm done being protected, Damien. I'm done being the damsel locked in the tower while you fight alone. We're in this together, or we're not in it at all. He searched her face, looking for doubt. She didn't give him any. You're sure about this? He asked quietly. I've never been more sure of anything. Something in his expression shifted. Pride, maybe, or respect. Okay, but you follow my lead. You stay where I tell you to stay. And if I tell you to run, you run. Agreed? Agreed. The next 2 days passed in a blur of preparation. Marcus coordinated with Damien's people, setting up the meeting location, positioning assets, confirming loyalties. The doctor came back daily to check Damien's wounds, each time shaking her head at how much he was moving around, but grudgingly admitting he was healing faster than expected. Lena spent the time getting stronger. She swam in the safe house's small pool, worked on her upper body strength, practiced transfers until she could do them smoothly even under pressure. If she was going into a war zone, she needed to be ready. On the second night, as they lay in bed together, a habit they'd fallen into without discussion, Damien spoke into the darkness. I found out who betrayed me. Lena turned to look at him. Who? My brother, The words hung in the air, heavy with pain. You have a brother? Half-brother, Stefan. We were in foster care together for a few years when we were kids. Only person who ever felt like family. His voice was flat, emotionless in the way that meant he was feeling too much. I brought him into the organization 5 years ago, gave him territory, trust, everything. Apparently Victor made him a better offer. I'm sorry. Don't be. This is the world I chose. Family doesn't mean much when money's on the table. But there was grief under the hardness. Betrayal that cut deeper than bullets. Lena took his hand. What are you going to do? What I have to. What he knew I'd do when he made his choice. Damien's fingers tightened around hers. In my world, betrayal has consequences. There's no forgiveness, no second chances. That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. No, it doesn't. He was quiet for a long moment. He'll be at the meeting. Victor's bringing him as proof that my organization is falling apart, as a symbol of his victory. And when you see him, I end it, cleanly, quickly, without hesitation. He turned to look at her. Does that scare you, knowing what I'm capable of? Lena thought about it, really thought about it. A month ago, the answer would have been yes. But she'd seen what Damien was protecting her from, seen the violence that lurked in his world, seen him throw himself between her and death without hesitation. No, she said finally. It doesn't scare me, because I know why you do it, and I know you'd never hurt someone who didn't deserve it. You have a lot of faith in me. You've earned it. He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she was something precious. When they broke apart, his eyes were dark with emotion. After this is over, he said quietly, if we survive, I want to take you somewhere. Somewhere without danger, without people trying to kill us. Just you and me in the ocean. That sounds perfect. I want to learn who you are when you're not fighting to survive. I want to watch you swim without walls around the pool. He stopped, shook his head. I want a life with you, Lena. A real one. If you'll have me. Her chest ached with the weight of it. Ask me again when this is over. Is that a yes? It's a promise to give you an answer when we're both still alive to hear it. He smiled, real and genuine. I can work with that. The meeting was set for noon in a warehouse on the industrial edge of the city. Neutral territory, or as neutral as anything could be in their world. Damien's people arrived first, taking positions in the rafters, behind crates, in every shadow and corner. By the time Victor arrived, the trap was set. Lena sat in her wheelchair at Damien's side, her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd insisted on being here, but now that it was happening, the reality of it pressed down on her. These men were going to try to kill them, and Damien was going to kill them first. Victor entered with 8 men flanking him. He was exactly as Lena had imagined, older, distinguished, the kind of man who looked like he belonged in a boardroom, not a warehouse planning murder. His eyes found Damien first, then slid to Lena with undisguised interest. So this is the girl worth starting a war over, Victor said, his accent thick and rolling. She's pretty, I'll give you that. But pretty girls are easy to find, Cross. Empires are not. She's not just pretty, Damien said, his voice cold. She's brave. She's strong. She's worth 10 of you. Victor laughed. Such poetry. Love has made you soft. Love has made me focused. There's a difference. Focused on what? Losing everything you've built? Victor gestured around them. Your people are abandoning you. Your territory is crumbling. Even your own blood has turned against you. Stefan stepped forward from Victor's group. He was younger than Damien, maybe mid-30s, with the same sharp features but softer edges. When he met Damien's eyes, something flickered in his expression. Guilt, maybe. Or regret. Hello, brother, Stefan said. Don't call me that. Damien's voice was ice. You gave up the right to that word when you sold me out. I did what I had to do to survive. You taught me that, remember? Trust no one. Take care of yourself first. Your rules. I trusted you. That was your mistake. The words hung in the air, brutal and final. Lena watched Damien's face, saw the muscle in his jaw tick, but his expression stayed controlled, unreadable. So what now, Victor? Damien asked. You have me here. You have your traitor. What are you offering? Simple terms. You give me the girl. You give me your territory east of the river. You acknowledge publicly that you've lost this war. And in return, I let you live. You can rebuild somewhere else. Start over. Just not here. And if I refuse, Victor's smile was cold, then you die here, along with your little cripple. Lena flinched at the word, but Damien's hand found hers, squeezed once, steady, reassuring. Here's my counteroffer, Damien said. You leave. Now. You take your people and you disappear from this city. And in return, I let you live long enough to regret crossing me. Victor laughed. You're outnumbered, outgunned, and bleeding from wounds you can barely hide. What makes you think you have any leverage? This. Damien raised his hand. Instantly, red laser sights appeared on Victor's chest, on Stefan's, on every one of Victor's men. They came from the rafters, from behind crates, from positions Victor hadn't known existed. Victor's expression went cold. You set a trap. I set an execution. You just walked into it. Damien stood, and despite his injuries, despite everything, he looked like exactly what he was, a man who'd built an empire on force of will and refused to let it fall. You thought my people were abandoning me. They were infiltrating you. Every person you thought you'd turned was feeding you exactly what I wanted you to know. Every move you made, I was 3 steps ahead. You're bluffing. Am I? Damien gestured, and 3 of Victor's men lowered their weapons, turned them on Victor instead. These are mine, always have been, along with 6 others in your organization who've been waiting for this moment. Victor's face went red. You underestimated me. Yes, because you thought love made me weak. But here's what you didn't understand, Victor. Love didn't make me weak. It made me dangerous, because now I have something to protect, someone to fight for. And that makes me willing to burn everything to the ground to keep her safe. Damien's hand moved to his weapon. Victor's men started to react, but the laser sights never wavered. Last chance, Damien said. Walk away, leave the city, or die here. Basi eat. For a moment, Victor looked like he might fight. His hand twitched toward his weapon. His eyes calculated odds, looked for exits. Then Stefan moved. He grabbed Victor, used him as a shield, and fired at Damien. Everything happened at once. Damien shoved Lena's wheelchair hard, sending her rolling behind a crate. Gunfire erupted. Victor's remaining loyal men returned fire. Damien's people in the rafters opened up. The warehouse became a war zone. Lena pressed herself against the crate, her ears ringing, her heart racing. Through the chaos, she could hear Damien shouting orders, could hear the steady rhythm of his weapon firing. Then hands grabbed her wheelchair. She looked up into Stefan's face. He was bleeding from a shoulder wound, his expression wild. You're coming with me, he said. Let go. He pulled a knife, held it to her throat. Damien, I've got her. The gunfire stopped. Lena could hear her own breathing, harsh and panicked. Stefan's hand was shaking, the knife pressing too hard against her skin. Damien appeared from behind cover, his weapon trained on Stefan. Let her go. Can't do that, brother. She's my ticket out of here. There is no ticket out. You're already dead. You just don't know it yet. Then we die together. Stefan's voice cracked. You and her, just like the family we could have been. We were family. You destroyed that. You destroyed it when you chose her over me, when you decided some crippled dancer was worth more than your own blood. The knife pressed harder. Lena felt a sting, felt warmth trickling down her neck. Damien's eyes went dark with fury. Last warning, Stefan. Let her go. Or what? You'll shoot me? Your baby brother? The only family you ever had? Yes. The single word was absolute, final. Stefan's expression crumbled. For a moment, he looked like a lost child. Then his hand tightened on the knife. Damien fired. Stefan dropped, the knife clattering away. He hit the ground hard, blood spreading across his chest. His eyes found Damien's, wide and shocked. You actually... He coughed, blood on his lips. You actually did it. Damien knelt beside him, his face unreadable. I told you. I protect what's mine. She's not. Stefan's breathing was ragged. She's not worth this. She's worth everything. Damien's voice was soft, almost gentle. You could have been too, if you'd chosen differently. Stefan's eyes were glazing over. I'm sorry. He didn't finish. The light went out of his eyes, and he was gone. Damien stood slowly, turned to where Victor was pinned by Damien's men. The older man was bleeding, defeated, but still defiant. Well played, Cross, Victor said. But this isn't over. I have allies. You had allies, past tense. Damien moved closer. Every one of them is receiving a message right now. Photos of this warehouse. Photos of you, defeated. Proof that I won. By tomorrow, they'll be lining up to swear loyalty to me. Because that's how this world works. Power respects power, and weakness gets destroyed. So that's it? You kill me and take over? No, I let you live. Damien's smile was cold. I let you live with everyone knowing you lost. I let you live with your empire crumbling. I let you live with the knowledge that the man you tried to destroy is the reason you're still breathing. And every day for the rest of your miserable life, you'll remember that you had a chance to walk away, and you chose this instead. Victor's face went white. In their world, Lena realized, this was worse than death. This was humiliation, permanent, public, irreversible. Damien turned away from him, moved to Lena. You're bleeding. She touched her neck, felt the shallow cut. It's not bad? It's too much. He pulled out a handkerchief, pressed it gently to her neck. I'm sorry. I should have seen Stefan moving. You saved me. Again. She covered his hand with hers. Is it over? Yeah, it's over. Around them, Damien's men were securing the warehouse, disarming the last of Victor's people. Marcus appeared, his expression grim but satisfied. Clean sweep, boss. We got them all. No losses on our side. Good. Get Victor out of here. Make sure everyone sees him leaving in defeat. Damien's voice was tired, worn. And call the doctor. Tell her to meet us at the safe house. Already done. Damien nodded, then turned back to Lena. Let's go home. Home. The word settled in Lena's chest, warm and solid, because that's what the safe house had become. Not a hiding place. Home. They left the warehouse, left the bodies and the blood, and the end of Victor's empire behind them. In the car, Damien pulled Lena close, mindful of both their injuries. You were right, he said quietly. About what? About us ending this together. About taking control instead of just reacting. You were brave in there. Braver than you should have been. I learned from the best. He kissed the top of her head. I killed my brother today. I know. Doesn't that bother you? Lena thought about it. About Stefan holding a knife to her throat. About the choice Damien had made. About what it cost him. It bothers me that he made you do it. But I understand why you did, and I don't blame you for it. You should. Maybe. But I don't. She tilted her head to look up at him. You're not a monster, Damien. You're a man who's had to make impossible choices in an impossible world. And you chose me. You chose us. That's what I'm going to remember. His arms tightened around her. I don't deserve you. Good thing I'm not asking what you deserve. I'm choosing what I want. They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Then Damien spoke again. You asked me to ask you something when this was over. Lena's heart skipped. I remember. We're alive. We survived, so I'm asking. He shifted so he could see her face. I want a life with you, Lena Hart. A real one. Messy and complicated and probably still dangerous sometimes, but real. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to watch you swim. I want to learn who you are when you're happy. I want to build something with you that isn't based on fear or survival. Just us. Just this. Whatever this is. His voice dropped. So what's your answer? Lena looked at this man who'd saved her in every way that mattered, who'd seen her broken and stayed anyway, who'd chosen her over power, over blood, over everything. Yes, she said. To all of it. Yes. The smile that broke across his face was worth everything they'd survived to get here. 2 months later, Lena stood at the edge of a pool that wasn't surrounded by walls or security or danger. It was at a beach house somewhere warm and far from the city, with the ocean visible beyond the deck and nothing but blue sky overhead. Damien was in the water, waiting for her. "You coming in?" he called. "Give me a minute." She'd gotten better at the transfer from wheelchair to pool lift, but it still required focus, especially now when she was distracted by how different everything felt. Victor was gone, disappeared to some remote corner of the world where his name meant nothing. His empire had dissolved, absorbed by Damien's organization and others. Stefan's betrayal had been kept quiet, not out of mercy, but because some wounds were too personal to make public. Damien's empire had stabilized, stronger than before. But he'd started delegating more, trusting Marcus and others to handle day-to-day operations. Because he'd meant what he said. He wanted a life, one that included quiet mornings and lazy afternoons and time with the woman he'd chosen. Lena had started teaching again. Not ballet. Her legs still didn't work, might never work the way they had before. But adaptive dance, water movement therapy, working with people who'd been told their bodies had betrayed them. People who needed someone to show them they were more than their injuries. It turned out she was good at it. Maybe because she understood what it felt like to be broken and to slowly, painfully, put yourself back together. She settled into the lift, let it lower her into the water. Damien was there immediately, his hand steadying her. "I've got you," he said. "I know." She pushed off, started swimming. He swam beside her, matching her pace. They'd been doing this every day since they arrived, swimming together in water that felt endless, without walls, without limits. "I have something to tell you," Lena said after a few laps. "Should I be worried?" "Maybe. Depends on how you feel about the future." He stopped swimming, treaded water. "What kind of future?" "The kind that includes physical therapy, real physical therapy, with doctors who specialize in spinal injuries. The kind that might not fix me completely, but might help me walk again, at least a little." His eyes widened. "You found someone?" "Someone found me. A specialist who saw one of my teaching videos online. She thinks there's hope. Not a miracle, but hope." Lena moved closer to him. "She's in the city, which means we'd have to go back, at least part-time. Then we go back." "Just like that?" "Just like that." He pulled her into his arms, held her in the water. "Lena, I'd follow you anywhere, back to the city, across the world, into therapy sessions that make you scream at me. Wherever you need to go, I'm there." "Even if I never walk again?" "Even if. I fell in love with you in a wheelchair. If that changes, great. If it doesn't, I don't care." His hand cupped her face. "I didn't choose you because of what your body could do. I chose you because of who you are. Strong, brave, stubborn as hell. That doesn't change whether you're walking or rolling." Tears stung her eyes. "I love you too. I don't think I've said that yet." "You haven't, but I've known it anyway." She kissed him there in the endless blue water, with the sun warm on their faces and the future spreading out before them like an ocean. Not perfect, not easy, but theirs. When they finally made it back to shore, Damien helped her into her chair and they sat on the deck, watching the waves. "Do you ever regret it?" Lena asked. "Choosing me over everything else?" "Not once." "Do you regret staying?" "Not even a little bit." He took her hand, laced their fingers together. "We're going to have a good life, Lena Hart." "We already do." And it was true. Because somewhere between the rain and the gunfire and the impossible choices, they'd found something neither of them had believed in anymore. Not safety exactly. There would always be danger in Damien's world. Not perfection. They were both too damaged for that. But they'd found each other. Two broken people who fit together in ways that made them both stronger. Two people who'd been abandoned and had chosen to stay. Two people who'd looked at darkness and decided to build something that looked like light. That was enough. That was everything. Years later, when people asked Lena about how she met her husband, she never told the whole truth. She'd say they met at a party, which was technically accurate. She'd leave out the danger, the blood, the bodies. She'd smile and change the subject. But sometimes when Damien caught her eye across a room, she'd remember. Remember sitting in the rain, invisible and forgotten. Remember being seen for the first time in months. Remember being saved over and over by a man who'd needed saving just as much. She'd remember choosing to stay, and she'd know with absolute certainty that she'd make the same choice every single time. Because love, real love, wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone who saw your scars and stayed anyway. Someone who fought for you when everyone else walked away. Someone who chose you over and over, even when the choice was hard. Damien had chosen her, she'd chosen him, and they'd built a life from that choice. Messy and complicated and sometimes still dangerous, but real.